Say that you, for whatever reason, are given the opportunity to have a conversation with someone who works at the Pokemon Company. What would you ask them? I can think of many questions that I could ask Tsunekazu Ishihara, the CEO of the Pokemon Company. Some questions are kind of obvious. What can we expect after Pokemon Legends? What part of the world will the next Pokemon region be based on? When will they start localizing games into Portuguese? What's going on with Pokemon Sleep, or the sequel to the Detective Pikachu game? Will there be any more live-action Pokemon movies? But I have a feeling most of those are questions that they will answer when they're ready to answer them. Instead, I would choose to ask about things that they don't normally talk about. Things like the direction of the franchise as a whole, and the relationship and the interplay between the direction of the games and what Game Freak wants to accomplish, and the direction of the anime and the TCG and so on. The games are what drives the franchise forward, but they're not the main source of revenue, so I imagine there's some tension between their objectives. And I don't mean that they fight or that there's any internal struggle or anything like that, just that there's probably some push and pull to figure out what needs to happen, and I'd like to know more about that process. In a similar vein, I would also like to ask Ishihara about how the Pokemon Company tries to strike that balance between appealing to newer and younger fans and serving the long-term loyal fans. Or even balancing those two audiences and Ishihara's vision for the franchise and where he wants it to go. The Pokemon Company and its shareholders and all of the different parts of the Pokemon audience, we all have different priorities. We all want different things out of Pokemon. I'm sure what we all want sometimes aligns nicely, but I also know that it often conflicts, and it's their responsibility to keep as many of us happy as possible. To put it a little bit more bluntly, I want to ask Ishihara who he sees as the most important demographic for Pokemon. Of course, it's extremely unlikely that I would get a one-on-one interview with Ishihara-san himself. It's maybe a little bit more likely that I could ask some questions to a higher-up of the Pokemon Company International, the subsidiary that operates outside of Asia. I believe their main office is just a few hours and an international border away from where I live, and maybe they could answer even some of those same questions. But let's be honest, with my 4,000 wonderful subscribers and 2,000 unique weekly viewers, if I get to talk to someone at TPCI, it's not going to be an executive. But you know what? I think I could come up with some good questions and have a great conversation with someone working at the Pokemon Company in just about any department. Let's say I get to interview a community manager, maybe they're a social media person. They are the front line of communications between the company and us, the fans, so they get to see the Pokemon community up close. Every reaction to a new reveal, both the good ones and especially the negative ones, is going to go through them. So how do they deal with it? As a real person behind a major brand account, how do they deal with all of those strong emotions? And I mean that both professionally and personally, because I'm sure it's tough to not let those things get to you. And what happens after that? Is there a process for communicating our feedback to whoever it's relevant to? When I tweet genuine feedback at Pokemon, does that get seen? Does that get passed along, or am I just tweeting into the void? I'm also curious if and how they keep tabs on the general mood of the fanbase and whether we're happy with where Pokemon stands. If you only ever see your mentions and your replies on Twitter, you're going to have a very distorted view of the community. So is there someone who engages with the fanbase at large, who looks at r/Pokemon on Reddit, who watches videos on YouTube? Is there someone who watches my channel, and can I have their name and Twitter handle? If I could talk to someone who handles communications or marketing more broadly, I would actually want to ask them if they think, in hindsight, the Dexit debacle was handled well. We were told there were no plans to bring back more Pokemon later, but we know now that wasn't true. And maybe if they'd been upfront about it, that Firestorm could have been more of a campfire. And more importantly, on the marketing side, why is it so difficult to actually receive the Trainer Club newsletter even when you're theoretically subscribed to it? And why do they insist on using it for event Pokemon when everyone knows that it's unreliable? What if I talked with someone who works with the trading card game? I would definitely want to ask them about their approach to waste and the carbon footprint generated from printing so many cards all the time. I love card art, but I don't really have much interest in the game, and I can't bring myself to collect the physical printed cards anymore. So is there any chance that card art could be made available in like a poster format or something? I'm also interested in how the card game gets localized. The sets that get released internationally are not exactly the same as the ones that get released in Japan. So why is that? How does that process happen? And speaking of localization, it would also be cool to hear about it regarding the anime and what kinds of changes get made and why, and what are the differences between all of the different languages that it gets released in. I'm not sure that someone who works with the anime at the Pokémon Company International would be able to talk about this, but it would be really cool to hear about the changes in direction and style that happened between the X and Y series and Sun and Moon and now Journeys. You know, another interesting area to talk about would be their merchandising and product development for Pokemon Center stores. I believe merchandising is the biggest source of revenue for Pokemon, not necessarily through Pokemon Center stores, but still, it's very significant for them. So how do they come up with successful products? They have a few merchandising collaborations, like with Rock Love for jewelry and Black Milk and Original Stitch for clothing. So how does that happen? What are they looking for there? Why are some products exclusive to Japan? And now that we have Pokemon Center in Canada, why don't we get all of the products that are in US Pokemon Centers? Why couldn't I pre-order the beautiful Marnie figurine from Max Factory? And the main question that I'm still asking 2 years later, why can't I buy the Bitter Rock varsity jacket from Sword and Shield, the one with the Maximizers embroidered on the back?
We demand to know!
I need it! And for that matter, why don't they make game clothes in general available in real life? I would love to get the Urban Smog t-shirt. I'm sure Marnie's dress and necklace would be popular, maybe Hop's jacket, or even Bede's parka. So why don't we have the option to buy those? But when I say that I could probably come up with good questions for people in pretty much any department, I mean it. Even departments that I don't have any prior interest in, I'm sure they would have interesting things to talk about that affect how we experience Pokemon. Like logistics. Pokemon is a huge company moving massive volumes of product around the globe every day. So how does that happen? Or the legal side of things. Maybe they could talk about the Pokemon Company's relationship with copyright and their stance on things like fan fiction and fan games. Or even, I don't know, accounting. Maybe they could give us a proper breakdown of where Pokemon revenue comes from and where it gets reinvested. Even if I could only interview someone who isn't an authority figure at all, who wouldn't have the knowledge or the permission to talk about any of the kinds of questions I've proposed already. Even then, I would be thrilled to have a conversation with them because they have experienced Pokemon from a perspective that very few people have. And I think as fans, I think it's important for us to remember that even though the Pokemon Company is a huge company, it's made of individuals. Maybe most of the high-level decisions are made by a board of directors, a bunch of investors who don't necessarily have a personal connection to Pokemon. And probably not everyone who applies for a job at TPCI is a Pokemon fan. But I'm sure most of the people who work there are. Most people who keep the day-to-day of the company running probably do have some personal relationship with Pokemon. I don't know if I ever will be able to ask any of my questions to someone who works at the Pokemon Company, but I'm trying. I'm reaching out to the Pokemon Company through a couple of different avenues to see if I can get an official interview of some level, of any level. At the time that I'm recording this, I haven't sent those emails yet, but by the time that you see this, I will have. I don't really expect to get a yes, definitely not quickly, but I do hope that someone will read my email and come to see this video. So this part is for you at the Pokemon Company. First of all, thank you for reading my email and taking the time to check out my channel. Now my running gag about the Pokemon Company watching my videos isn't just a gag anymore. But joking aside, I think that you, Pokemon as a company, could do a better job of communicating with your audience, with your fan base. And I would be thrilled to be a part of that. I know my channel isn't big. I know I can't make a big splash. And so it's perfectly understandable if you can't give me an interview with someone in a senior position. But I would be happy to chat with anyone, even with you personally. So you have my email, and if you somehow didn't get that but managed to find this video anyway, my DMs are open on Twitter or on LinkedIn, and I hope that I will hear back from you. And for those of you watching this from outside the Pokémon Company, let me know in the comments what you would like to ask them, and maybe I will get the opportunity to pass it along. Thank you all for watching, and thank you to all of my wonderful supporters on Patreon and YouTube channel members, especially Ethan from Chicago and Gano, who helped push me to do this. I'll see you all in the next chapter.